Well, good evening. The few, the proud, and maybe the none. We'll see what happens tonight. In a quick little brief talk on Idaho 4, and we are going to branch off into some political discussions. They're not going to be very happy discussions. However, they are reality, and we should probably be paying attention to them. They're my co-host. My co-host is right now on the Cluminati show. His maybe someday, who knows, possibly could be his wife, where he's a co-host. And they often open with the singing. And yep, I don't know. I try to practice my fingernails on a chalkboard routine when they come out to sing, but that's, it's just me. Anyway, good evening, folks. Thanks for dropping by. And if not, go fuck yourselves. No, I'm just kidding. So what's in my title? Yeah, Harsh Reality, Unfiltered Lucky, Heather, and a few others. I got to give a little shout out to them. They are sticking to the facts of the case as the facts are being produced, and that, to me, that's exactly what we all should be doing. I mean, I'm not saying that I had anything to do with them becoming full factual based streams, but when it comes to the Idaho 4, it's it seems like they've gone down the same path we've all gone down and come to a point where similar to myself, where the facts are what tell the story, and not the media, and not talking heads, and not what you believe, or not what you think, or not what you saw on a fucking stream. The only facts that are relevant are the facts that are being distributed through the process of the case moving forward itself, and that's where those two guys, like myself, get hung up on some of the information that's being disseminated out there, and none of it is part of the case that Brian is facing. There's a bigger number of people that are trying to solve this case, or a bigger number of these people, like that drunk turkey fucking guy. What did his stream say here? Boom, Brian Koberger fingerprints found at the scene. Now, there's no evidence to say that Brian Koberger's fingerprints were found at the scene. And this is the problem when you absolutely have an agenda, and you have a point of view you want everybody else to agree with or think. In other words, they don't, right? Because I'm a true crime guy. My name is fucking Fat Daniel, wearing sunglasses, and I've got an even fatter friend that I don't even know what the guy's name is. But anyway, aside from the fact that they're fat, I think the reason I point that out is not to disparage their appearance overall, because I mean, for quite a while their Harsh was quite hefty. So in all fairness, I think it interferes with your ability to think. When you get all that fat, it's gotta affect your brain too, right? Or maybe not. Maybe they're just the fat has nothing to do with nothing, which is probably more accurate than anything else. But I think someone needs to remind them that fast bastards can be quite irritating when they're trying to sell that Brian Koberger's fingerprints were found at the scene. And they're deriving that from the fact that there's fingerprint experts that are going to be brought in. Now, I'm sorry, but don't you all think there's a lot of fingerprints found in that house? Of course there were fingerprint experts brought in. Of course people took fingerprints. Okay? And I'm sure fingerprint experts are going to be required in this case, simply because of the investigation and the processes it goes through to move its way through the fucking system. Right? And do you honestly think there weren't doorknobs and doors and windows, and I don't know what kind of bed they had, but if you had a 4-post bed, you don't think they would swab, and search for fingerprints on everything and everywhere. Okay? And of course. And the idea that impugns Brian Koberger as being there and they found his fingerprints. Let me just say, this is how I assess that information. And I'm going to try to help Daniel out, because I'm sure some of those bad calories in his bloodstream may fuck with the way he thinks. But let me just say that if Brian Koberger's fingerprints, okay, were discovered at that scene, you might want to realize that would have probably been the first thing that they shared with us before the DNA. Right? They swabbed Brian Kohlberger, and then later they came out and talked about the swab. And all they've ever focused on, Daniel, you fat bastard, is the DNA nonsense, which is a bunch of hogwash anyways. If you had any ability to go back and think, Mr. Drunk Turkey, but you surrendered that when the mainstream media, just made a fool out of you. And your buddy Blue, that's his name. I don't know who he blows, and it's none of our business. And to be very honest with you, we don't have any opinion about people's sexual choices, Daniel. It's perfectly fine. It's okay. But in comparison to him, a longtime true crime streamer, and Harsh and Lucky, at least, I mean, for the most part, both of these gentlemen, I think they tend to lean toward Brian being innocent, but they do they do catch themselves and say that he's innocent because that's the way the system works, or that they personally believe it. And, I see how you can come to that determining and understanding of what you're looking at. I simply don't agree with his guilt or innocence at all. I just can't say for sure. But if you're going to say that based on the information released through the processes of this arrest, this indictment, and this court proceedings, that the information that you've shown, being or the courts or any of the documents, that when looked through that lens and that lens only, Brian Kohlberger is innocent, I can get on board with that argument. That when you look at just what there is to look at, that is absolutely verifiable, that it's entered into evidence, it's sworn to under oath, or it's been testified to under oath, that information does in fact conclude that Brian Kohlberger is not the doer of the crime, that he is in fact innocent. And so in that relationship, apparently, let him invite the Drunk Turkey. I mean, the Drunk Turkey is just the internet's version of a fucking Nancy Grace, except he's some, I don't know what he is, just some fucking fucking shape and fucking dude. I don't know. That doesn't really have the capacity to think for himself and doesn't want to accept the information as it's being accepted. Here's the best part about people that make conclusions beforehand and then view everything through their conclusion. And Daniel's the perfect example of that, as are many of you streamers out there that are trying to solve this crime, right? And the problem with looking at anything with a predetermined opinion of what you're looking at is that everything will fit that. And here's the worst part about that is when you are hearing extremely contradictory things from the prosecution's witnesses, okay? And you're hearing extremely contradictory things coming from the defense that then in fact become confirmed by the actual people that did the investigation. Let's be clear. If anything has reared its ugly head, it's that the points Ann Taylor has made have been confirmed by the people that worked the case directly. And here's the problem when you got this idea and you're hunting for innocence or guilt, is if your idea is that he's guilty, you completely fucking ignore that fact. That's the crazy part that I don't see. I don't understand that at all. And it's kind of mind-numbing. Now, people that see him as innocent will do the same thing. They'll see everything through the lens of innocence, and unlike a group, what we all should be probably doing is accept that he's innocent till proven guilty. And I mean, ironically, maybe Daniel, the Drunk Turkey fucking douchebag, maybe he'll understand this. It's not our job, nor is it anything we have the capacity to show as to his innocence or guilt. We can't do that. But if we look at the information that they're using to accuse him, we could come to some type of understanding as to whether the accusations made have any merit in reality. And when the policemen that put the case together, okay, can't even confirm and support their own accusations against this gentleman's movements, against the times that he moved or didn't move, against his locations as to whether he was there or not, none of their video can confirm that the car in the video is Brian Kohlberger and his 2015 Elantra. When the main investigator makes a statement like that, that should be a red flag to all of us. But those are the things that get overlooked by the people that have this. They automatically accept when someone's arrested, they're guilty. And I don't understand how people put that much faith in a system that's so corrupt and broken across all levels. Okay? And it's tragic. So sadly, both sides of the innocent or guilt argue the talking points that are fed them, not because they thought them through, not because their observations through research and study, right? And they're doing it because they have this fantastic fucking concern or idea that they know, and that this evidence only shows one thing. And I hate to remind people that the DNA itself is circumstantial evidence, inasmuch as it cannot determine the time that it got there, how it got there, and if Kohberger even placed it there or had anything to do with its placement on that knife sheath. First and foremost, because it's transfer DNA. Okay. So you have to now fill in the blanks to place Bryan Kohberger in that home. And it's all of that fill-in evidence that then makes it likely that Kohberger's DNA could have only shown up. You can make that leap. Kohberger only got there because he was there at the time of the murders. All right. But if everything that they've alleged shows unprovable and unverifiable, it's just a guess, right? Then you don't have evidence to support your fucking circumstantial DNA evidence. Some people get it, but it really isn't. To me, it's almost like as simple as tying a shoe or adding 2 + 2 = 4. Evening, everybody that said hello, I appreciate it. The mainstream media not only, and I agree, Grant, it's not even that the mainstream media doesn't do it. All these people on the internet do it. And there's like, Lana's pretty good about it. Harsh seems, for a while. Anyway, he seems to be more focused on that. Lucky seems to be more focused on it. This other guy, To The Point, seems to be more focused on it. More focused on the facts that we can verify, and then hear testimony against them. Right? All of those people and all of those places that did all those investigations that are being called out in motions and are being questioned on a witness stand, or replies are being made by the prosecution. You could go through and see that the whole story that Bryan Kohberger turned off his phone to hide his location. Oh, and then went and did the crime and then showed up somewhere else for, 20 minutes or something after the crime, right? You can make all of those. You got to make leaps of faith that the police are giving you the truth. But then when they go to fill it in and they start talking about a car that was around the house, they themselves, as I said in the very beginning, are the witnesses that Bryan Kohberger needs to show that he wasn't at that home. Okay, and to show reasonable doubt that Bryan Kohberger wasn't at that home. And that's what this is about, folks. This is either he committed the crime beyond reasonable doubt, or you have to accept the reasonable doubt that's being laid all. I mean, if you were building the fucking road, you're paving that road with reasonable doubt. And every single thing the police and every single statement the police made and everything they did to arrest this young man, it's full of reasonable doubt. And I have no problem with that reasonable doubt being turned into reasonably or to being turned into evidence against the perpetrator. I have no objection to that happening. However, in this particular case, the accusations made to get warrants to arrest him, in fact, show themselves to not be verifiable. Right? I mean, dude, how can you arrest me of stealing the fucking from the candy aisle when I was in the meat aisle stealing meat? And you go down and you say to this thing, we got video of this man stealing candy from Joe's fucking corner deli, right? And then you get a warrant and you come to my house and you kick in the fucking door and you search my house and you find all this fucking meat from Joe's Deli. Sorry, you can't arrest me for stealing meat. You can't even collect that in evidence now. You're kind of fucked. Because the discovery of that meat came from a warrant that I stole from the candy aisle. The fact of the matter was I was stealing from the meat fucking aisle. When you make that kind of mistake, you're kind of fucked. And that's how the system is supposed to work, man. You can't say that I did this with my phone because I intended to do this thing in the near future, was go slaughter 4 people. You can't say that my vehicle is similar to the vehicle that went around that home when you know specifically what year make that vehicle is going around that home. You have a specific identification of that vehicle. And this is where I think Ann's making this Frank's hearing. This is where I think Ann is going after the police. It's when Payne wrote that we later discovered that it could also be an 11 to 16. That little statement right there is the most dishonest thing I think so far that I've seen that's obvious. I'm harsh, lucky, to the point, myself, I think Lana, there's a bunch of us that keep telling you the FBI is comfortable and stands their ground on the identification of the car that was around the house that night. Why is it that some people that have to argue innocence or guilt, here's the worst part, those that argue guilt ignore that particular fact. They ignore it. They make fun of it. They say it's just a defensive ploy to stall the thing. And then, or they don't even address it. Here's what a lot of people will do. And this is why, you know, you're dealing with low IQ people. When you point out that to this point, it's been established that the actual car around the house is 11 to 13, they will then change the subject on you. They will not address that. They'll argue, no, that hasn't been established, and and they'll change the topic. What about this? What about that? How come those are the kind of fucking idiots that generally run live streams, or are a big people that jump up on the panels and are big and arguing for the guilt to Kohberger, rather than trying to say, wait a minute, that is a bit suspicious. Now, there are people out there that also have that particular ability where they may think this man is guilty, and Harsh brought that up in his stream. I got one of his keyed up. And let me see. I'm gonna, you know, I don't know how to do this, but Harsh, if you see this, you could strike me if you want. I don't know why you would. I'm not doing anything negative here. Share screen.
See it play out in a way that they're proven to be right, but they appreciate that we're not there yet. And those people I can live with. Absolutely live with. But I do have to address one other elephant in the room, and that is that there's a lot of different creators covering the Bryan Kohberger story in the Idaho 4 case. All right. Now, as of this fucking point, this moment, in respect of the Idaho 4 case, I don't work alongside any other channels. I don't collaborate with any other channels in terms of the Idaho 4. And
let me be very clear. I'm not putting any of this out here with his name and the other guys because I want to collaborate with anybody. No, because I do have the freedom to say what I want, how I want, and any way against any of these other creators when I said, because I've gone after him a few times and some of the things he's had in his streams about innocence or guilt. And I'm not, look at, although I should probably be patting myself on the back that so many of these other streamers are actually paying attention to what I've been arguing. It's all we need to be doing. Okay. And I agree, Mark. I'm not taking credit for some of these streamers that have turned the page and actually started looking at the evidence, because the bottom line is anybody that has the capacity to think, if you want Kohberger to be guilty and you're being shown in a very big way, maybe not overwhelming yet, but in a very big way, that everything alleged in that PCA is unprovable and inaccurate and factually does not place Bryan Kohberger at that house. Now, being exposed to that information, causing you to think and change your way of viewing what you're looking at, is wonderful. That's awesome. That's how it's supposed to work, right? So, it's just like when you were taught to tie your shoes. Eventually you get to the solution and it becomes a habitual solution that you use for the rest of your life. If you notice, you've never changed how you tie your shoes. You've never changed which leg you put in your pants first. That's just how it works. However, do you have the capacity, if shown, a simpler way to do those two tasks? Or do you just ignore them and keep doing it your own way? And that's kind of a simple explanation of what you're seeing when you're examining either politics or criminal activity, law, legal issues, when you're following stories. I'm not saying this to be a braggart, but when I turn on these true crime shows, I know right in the beginning who the killer is. And if I'm watching it with others, depending on who it is, I just keep my mouth shut. But more often than not, I like to be a fucking pain in the ass, and so I will solve it for you. No, I think everybody has got an abundance of common sense, but everybody gets themselves embattled and embroiled into a particular point of view. That drunk turkey guy was literally questioning what the fuck was going on with this investigation until he hit the mainstream media and they humiliated him. And they edited the tape and they put statements out there that were part of a bigger statement. Maybe they took what he was saying out of context, but they literally slapped the guy around. And the next thing you know, he's coming out and he's about Kohberger did it. Kohberger did it. Kohberger did it. If these people say they found a Q-tip in fucking Canada, somehow if they said it was tied to Kohberger, he would accept it. And it's just need not be. I don't understand. Maybe these guys' only source of income is YouTube. I don't know. And maybe but if you've got to lose the integrity of who you are to maintain your income, or if your income has no connection to your integrity and you've completely, turned away from how you earn an income from your fellow man, then you're just a scumbag that needs a fucking good slap, right? I mean, I'm not down with anybody that lies or fucking. I'm not. That's why people don't like the media. I'm not down with the media. Most of you aren't either. That's why you're on these channels. That's why, Musk keeps saying we are the news. Twitter or X is the news. But is it really the honest news? Just because I voted for Trump doesn't mean I agree with everything Trump did. I said this when he lost that last election. Everybody acts like Trump is different than the rest of them. Well, he seemed to be pretty cozy with Obama the other day. The idea that Trump is so different than everyone else in politics, and in many ways, in big obvious ways, he is, right? But let's be clear that his son-in-law Jared, who's the husband of his favorite daughter Ivanka, has multi-billion-dollar deals with the Saudis and the Israelis that came out of Trump's presidency. So are they all really that different, folks? I mean, drink the Kool-Aid the way you want to drink it. But I suspect that the differences in these political people, why isn't somebody like you or me more popular? What up, Heidi? Yeah, I mean, the whole purpose of politics in America is for the average person to be in politics, not only the billionaires and the gazillionaires and the people that can get money from those people. But apparently, that's what it's all turned into. And this includes Trump. I mean, you can't take him out of that crowd, right? He's less than the 1%. He's in the very small numbers of the 1% out there. Yeah, there's billionaires worth more than him. Yeah, but they're still all in that very small percentage. And so you've got to be able to look at, and I support Trump's presidency. I supported it the first time, and I wasn't surprised. I was pissed. Anyway. But this time I go at it with eyes my eyes are a little more wide open, right? And like I said, some of the stream was going to be politics. Why is China ahead of us in fusion energy and building plants? Why is China coming forward with the best neutrino detectors the Earth has ever seen? Why is China building bridges, roads, highways, cities in ways that we're not doing that anymore? Where's our thorium power plants? Where are we? That's why I say the move to electric vehicles would be a very, 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 very good thing for this country. But where is it? There was that guy that runs Apple the other day saying it's not really the savings in labor, which he's lying, that attracts us to go to these countries. It's that they've got a football field full of specific engineers for the specific things we're doing. And that there's an argument to be made that he's telling you the truth, but what he's not telling you is he took all that technology and all those machines and all the things that we as Americans built and handed them to fucking China for the cheap labor. And then China trained its people to meet the fucking incoming technology that cunts like him were fucking siphoning out of America. I don't care who the fuck invented the cell phone. It wasn't Apple, I can tell you that much. It wasn't Steve Jobs that invented a fucking cell phone. He had a creativity, he had differences to it, he added a lot of, user things to it, and he made a great product. But then he took the products that was invented and fucking made in America and took the process of making it offshore. Same thing Boeing did to us. All these companies, folks. So you go look at the progress in China and ask yourself, with $36 trillion in debt, why the fuck don't we have the world's tallest building anymore? Why the fuck don't we have the most fucking energy production? Why don't we have the best roads, the best? I mean, it's insane. We're teaching people about sexual fucking orientation when they're 6 to 10 years old. They should be learning about the fucking wonders of the moon. Of how did humanity, how do we become what we are? All these things. You guys could list more things than I could. So our educational system has been fucked. Our manufacturing system has been fucking tore away. I mean, we created steel. It was Carnegie that created the fucking metal you use today. And he stole that from an idea, I think, that actually came out of Asia. Right? We are no longer the country we were. We're like an old man. We're like an old man on crutches over here. We want to argue and get caught up and get caught up in stuff that it's so much easier to look at the facts of any criminal proceeding and look at the evidence. Like, I think Allen got served. I think that guy Allen really got railroaded, right? I think that Karen Reed is on the path to be railroaded. And those people that are in those positions to do that are the people we're supposed to be paying attention to and holding them to account. We don't do any of that. Guys like Daniel that get these clicks, that little midget guy with the T-Rex arms that was sucking up to Seth. All about click, 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 click. And that's great. Earn your fucking money out here. But god damn. If you think you want to be different than the media, if you think you're better than the media, I'm sorry. You're in a world of retardism if that's how you live. And it's good to see a couple of stations. And look, there's more than just a few that I've mentioned that stick with facts. But to me, that's the most important thing you can give your audience is the facts and the breakdown. So I'm going to kick in a little bit more of Harsh here, but not Harsh. I'm not, believe me, buddy, I'm not trying to kiss anybody's ass or butter up to anybody. I don't give a flying fuck what you do. Your country is more fucked up than our country. I know you're from England or Britain, and that place is turning into a fucking freedom of speech hellhole. And, okay, probably you can't talk about it because it's gone so far because you guys have never done anything to stop this from happening. And now your country's where it's at. But it is fucked when it comes to free speech. Child molesters get less time than people that fucking talk about child molesters and where they came from and their beliefs than the molesting of the children. So you do come from a very fucked up country. Sadly. Although all the Western countries have become this kind of fucked up. It's not just there, it's here too. Look at Kamala Harris. We need to control the information given to the people because there could be fake news in there. Well, too fucking bad. If you give us all the news and both sides of the story, we'll decide what's fake or not. Confess that you started that war in 2014 in Ukraine. Confess that it was the West that was trying to stop Russia from exporting its fucking natural gas and oil to the Western countries. I never understood why we couldn't be allies with Russia. And the reason it comes down to simplicity. Big corporate fucking people that want a lot of fucking money and the cunts that are in Congress and Senate that they own or in the White House. Right? And they keep trading fucking jobs. I'm a congressman or a senator today. The next thing you know, I'm working for fucking ExxonMobil. Those are our biggest problems. And they don't get discussed. They really don't. Most people just, for whatever reason, it's like it's unfixable. Nonetheless, I'm going to jump over that comment there. But here. Uh-oh. We got commercial. You can get a brand new heating system, no money down. I don't think you yeah.
And actually naming fucking people and saying that this is about fucking crackheads and this, that, and the other. And look, could be. Absolutely could be. The downside is why could it be? Because sadly, some of the victims in this, their families were involved with crackheads. So there is a possibility that there was something going on in the background. Do I think that that's likely the case here? I just don't know. I don't know. What I do know is that there was 3 unidentified DNA profiles that were fucking buried in this. They were buried. Quite literally buried, because the fucking house was buried. They knocked the house down and buried it. But the 3 DNA profiles that were buried, to me, just stinks of something happened here and someone's being protected. And why are they being protected? Could it be that these are rich people, powerful people, people of influence? Who knows? Is it beyond the...
Now, I want to jump in on that just for a minute. Listen. We've seen so much criminality take place through those people that are supposed to be running this stuff on our behalf that I see how easy it is to think and view the world through the lens that he's using right here. Because that lens does have a big role in today's modern society, that these people are all corrupt and they're protecting each other. I mean, but I don't know so much that it's something that should even be considered until we have clear evidence that that be the case, right? I'm not really, okay, here's a point I want you to, and I've said this before. We'll take Officer Payne. I don't suspect Officer Payne is doing anything with any criminal intent. I think Officer Payne is actually doing everything that he was trained to do. And one of the things he's trained to do is numbers, get as many arrests as possible, solve all your cases, as many as you can, and build up this reputation. And that in the process of that, some things can be overlooked, some corners can be cut. It's no different than the 98 or 99% of the plea bargains that are handed out, to which most of those plea bargains are given to people that just don't have the resources or the time or the personality to fight these charges that they end up with. I'm not saying they're all guilty, but I am pointing out that these shortcuts are taken. I think when you look at a case like this, and this guy's seeing what he saw, and we don't know yet, but if I'm going to make assumptions, the biggest assumption that I'm going to make is that when you read that warrant for AT&T, that first warrant, in a small middle of the page paragraph, it says, supply all information related to this account. It doesn't reiterate in this paragraph between the 12th and 14th of 2022. It doesn't do that. It's a blanket statement that I suspect, when looked at by an individual, a normal everyday fucking person, that because Kohberger had only been their client since June of 2022, that when AT&T looked at this warrant and then read that inner paragraph, they gave, on their first run, I suspect, they gave Officer Payne all of Brian Kohberger's data. Okay? And I think that even he didn't understand what he had. And so then later, Mowery actually has to go back and ask for a warrant for dates and times that Brett Payne is now arguing, I had a second warrant. I got the second warrant the same day. And I think Brett Payne is on that path because I think the second warrant was to cover the discovery that they had gotten that they didn't ask for. So that whole process of instantaneous second applications for a warrant, I think, is derived from AT&T mistakenly giving all of that information to Officer Payne right off the bat. And it was all of that information, okay, that he started to paint a picture in his head of Koberger's location. He was there 12 times, and you could see it in the PCA where they're alleging his presence on that night, his phone not reporting. They're also alleging all of the nonsense of the 12 previous trips. All of this story gets bound up in his head. And he comes to the conclusion that he has the right suspect. And he goes all in. Now, I'm telling you, the reason he was able to do that is partly because he's a dumb fuck, but other partly because, just like Daniel from Drunk Turkey, dear God, you don't want to ruin your chances of promotion. You don't want to ruin your chances of being, an acclaimed YouTuber or whatever the fuck you people want from doing all of this out here. I don't know what people expect from. Who knows? Maybe you could be the next Hawk Tuba fucking girl. I don't know. But people do this with their jobs, especially in our justice system. And it's tragic that American citizens lose their freedom because they're able to convince and con and cajole a fucking jury of your peers to come up with that. I honestly suspect, like I had said with the Karen Reed case, if you as a defense attorney can't take the most blatant pieces of evidence that show that your client didn't do it, blatant piece of evidences that show that it's just unlikely for this to happen the way they're claiming, and break that into simple stupid in your closing argument, or even more importantly, every time you approach a witness that has that information available, right? Listen, it's a shame how we've all, you don't want to, you only want to, the dog ate his homework, right? Yeah. The only time you want to argue the other person's narrative is when the information you have from that narrative is a baseball bat to their own narrative. In the Koberger case, and I suspect even in the Delphi case, I think the information that the investigators put forward in their interpretation of it was the hammer the defense attorney was supposed to beat until the fucking judge threatened him with contempt of court. That's your job as a defense attorney. Someone asked earlier about bail. I think Brian Koberger's safer in jail than he is out of the jail, and I think so is his family. I think him being in jail has calmed everybody down. As far as the evidence that now has been put forward through these motions and these hearings, I don't really understand how a reasonable-minded individual wouldn't conclude that the state has done a very sloppy job, and that it should at least be very troubling that all of the accusations and the stories that they've told are completely unverifiable and or contradicted by themselves. I don't know if he was the perp in Delphi. I don't know if Koberger's the perp. I just can suggest that the way the cases are handled and the way the jury's preconditioned ahead of time, like with Koberger. I mean, this has got to stop. Just because you're accused of a crime doesn't mean you're a criminal. And the media picks up some of these cases. How come they're not picking up the Gilgo case where all the cops are the criminal? But they'll pick up the Koberger case because they got this story that he's the criminal. And they'll destroy the everyday man. But when it comes to destroying politicians, unless the politicians disagree with their fucking point of view, like Trump disagree, right? Unless you're someone like that, they then, like they did with Trump, they tried to destroy Trump on accusations. None of those. I mean, the fact that he just got sentenced, that case is going to get destroyed in a court of appeals. That case is never going to hold. The idea he's a felon is not going to last long because New York did a jerk-off job there amongst all the jerk-offs in New York, and there was nothing Trump's lawyer could do. Trump did everything he could do, and the judge refused to accept these motions. So it is what it is. Yeah, how do you say, that's finally now people after 2 years are coming out and they're starting to look at Dylan and Bethany. We have very limited information, but what we do have, and I said this right in the beginning, I can absolutely paint an actual story from Bethany's actual statements that make, I'm sorry, I get the names confused. I can make a circumstantial case that's stronger against Dylan than they have currently on Brian. It would be very simple to do. Her own words, the timeline, her own testimony, that which she didn't say, the actions of her own personal actions that she's confirmed. You could make a substantial case against her that would be 10,000 times more powerful than what they've dragged down with Kohberger. The fact of the matter is, the FBI says that that car is an 11 to 13. The car that they describe in the PCA is not Bryan Kohberger's. That should be the end of it. Most of us with any common sense would say, then why did they arrest Kohberger? And here's what you idiots do that are guilty. There must be something else. Well, then why wasn't there something else listed in the arrest warrants for applications for warrants and or arrest? I don't know what kind of fucking secret fucking jerk off fucking life you people live. But when they arrest you, they don't hold back on the evidence they find against you. Or prior to arrest, if they're going to get a warrant to arrest you, they put as much in there to damn you as they can. Why? Because they're supposed to. That's the other thing, too. We've all been fucking accepting this watered down, broken fucking system. And we say the system's no good and the system's perfect. It's the people that run the system that are no fucking good. Dylan Mordson is the only person that had any interaction with that crime during the time of the crime. As a matter of fact, she was the only person that was alert before, during, and after the crime. As a matter of fact, she's the only person at all that says very suspicious things and behaved very suspiciously. In fact, if she's the one that called outsiders to come to the property, okay, 8 hours after the crime, you could listen. It would literally be like stealing candy from a baby. When you look at what's been given to the public based on what that woman shared, and then the police decide to share with us. I don't want to know what they said. Here's a point for you guys that think you're so smart with your guilt. That PCA has got a lot of dumb shit in it. I don't give a fuck where those young girls were at 1:56 in the morning. I don't give a goddamn fuck where they were at 9 a.m. I want to know exactly where they were between the hours of 4 and 4:20 a.m. That's all that's relevant. Unless you're telling me that the activity at 9 o'clock resulted in their later death, you stupid motherfuckers, I don't want to hear it. If there's fingerprints in that house that match Bryan Kohberger's, that should have been on the fucking application. When they came forward after they arrested him and took his fingerprints and took his fucking DNA, they would have said that they found Bryan Kohberger's fingerprints at the crime scene. I don't understand how you people, because you willfully make yourself ignorant. And it's almost like you make an ostrich look brave. A lot of you people that believe in the guilt of any of these people. I don't care if it's Kohberger or some other case. You mean to tell me that an SUV backed into an outstretched arm, never made contact with the hip, the thigh, the calf, the foot, the fucking chest, the fucking ribs, the fucking shoulder, the fucking head, and by simply hitting the outside stretched arm, the body flew 30 fucking feet? I would like to take each one of those jurors outside and just fucking water drop them motherfuckers, slap them. How the fuck do you accept that? There's no bruising to any part of the body but the upper arm. And not even the upper arm. The arm from right around the elbow down to the hand. That's the only injury on the body. And you're telling me that injury threw a 180-pound man 30 motherfucking feet. That's what I'm saying. These defense lawyers, there are people out here that are smart, even way smarter than me. And that's what you need to keep beating the jury on. That needs to constantly be brought to their attention if you can throughout the proceeding. And you need to actually, I would stumble away shaking my head. How the hell do you hit somebody's arm and throw him 30 feet? I'd mumble that shit to myself and let the judge threaten me with contempt. You would not leave that jury box without that being burned into your brain. You would not leave the jury box not realizing that the video that they caught sometime after the death of Karen Reed driving away, that video proves both of her taillights were intact. Therefore, for them taillights to have been broken and recovered, it had to have been done by the policeman, because there was none of that found in the initial inspection of the car scene. There's none of that to show that they were broke when she drove away at night after that, all that happened, right? So where did the taillight, when did it get broke? It clearly didn't get broke at what you claim to be the accident site. It got broke sometime after that last catch on the video, after the crime was supposedly done. I would have held that tail light up. I'd have brought in a tail light from the fucking auto fucking zone, and I'd have turned the tail light on with a fucking car battery to show them, look, red light, and then smash the lens. Look, white light. You see the white light, Jers? Do you see the white light? That's what happens when you break a tail light. Man, these lawyers need a talking to too. But they're only like stuck in the same fucking kind of chaos that most of you guilters or those that are going to argue innocence or those of you that are trying to solve the fucking crime. It's insane. It's so obvious. If an FBI agent tells you that car is an 11 to 13, you have to accept that as fact. Now, if you, the Idaho State Police, can show a clear contradiction that man was wrong, then let me just say this. It can't be an 11 to 16, you cocksucker. It can only be a 14 to fucking 16. You dumb motherfuckers. What do you mean you're going to expand it from 11? There are two different fucking appearing cars in the back bumper. You arrested a guy that drives a 15, you stupid fuck. So you're not looking for an 11 to 16. You're looking for a 14 to 16. The same fucking common sense has to apply. If you come out looking for an 11 to 13, don't later say, oh, I, Officer Payne, I'm smarter than all these guys, and expand it. You can't do that. It's either one or the other. And then when the fucking defense shows you that the images that they use to identify the 14 to 16 come from a fucking video camera that is nowhere near the crime scene and not even on the right road and not even at the right time of the fucking crime. When the defense can show that, you had to have known that as the police. Why didn't you bring the exact video of that car going around that fucking house at those motherfucking times and ask the FBI agent if he would expand his fucking opinion from 11 to 16? And he wouldn't. You know why he wouldn't? Because those cars have specific means of identification that are unique to those model years. That's how he was able to come to the fucking conclusion it was 11 to 13. He's not going to just stand back and say, well, I guess it could be. Jesus Christ, people. I've made that argument for 2 years. There's no way a cop makes that specific of an identification when the way to identify the cars are very small. They're not obvious. They're very small. And the fact that these are infrared cameras, which other people have pointed out, means that they're not going to pick up the light. If you drive in there with a bright red car, it's going to look fucking something different than red. Maybe red will show up. But if you come in with a blue car or a tan car or a gray car or a white car, they're all going to appear to be tan or not tan. They're all going to appear to be white. They're not infrared. And they take their images come out in black and white. And the way to prove that, go look at the Linda Lane footage. Unless they're right on top of the car, right there on top of it, at any distance, they're not going to differentiate between color. Lighting's going to vary. Reflections of light coming off. There's going to be all kinds of variances. They're going to fuck your observable view up. But certain things can't be fucking fucked up. If you got marker lights on the outside bumper cover, or you got marker lights on the lower fucking license plate cover, right? Those denote two different vehicles. The rims on the car could also help make an identification. The thing they claim comes from a gas station. That picture is ridiculous. That identifies no car. That could be any make, model car. But again, they cannot connect Kohberger to the house. And if you can't do that, the DNA then becomes an unexplainable fucking mess. Matter of fact, as Harsh just pointed out here, it makes the 3 other DNA samples that much more important. This is what it's mind-boggling to me that other creators, and some, not all, but most of them, especially the guilters or the innocent guys, don't seem to understand that is the issue. If forget his DNA is there, what about the other 3? Why, once you realize Kohberger didn't drive that car, didn't you process that fucking DNA? Didn't you then identify that DNA? And now if you're starting to read somebody's documents and these arguments that Anna's making, she's saying exactly what I said in the beginning. That you're looking for a fucking needle in a haystack, but the haystack is an entire fucking hayfield. So now you've got 50 fucking thousand or 5,000 bales of hay you got to look through when you submit a sample with no identification. And my question is, and always has been, was that sample given with an identification? Because it comes down to the markers that match. I told you guys this about when you go for paternity. They look for 12 specific markers. And it's you're going to have some of them, right? So if you're looking for a white European between the ages of 25 and 35, and in an area of a city of 10 million people, right? If you pull in 5 random fucking guys, you're going to get fucking some of those guys, all of them are going to have a marker that matches that fucking kid because you're all human. So what ends up happening is the amount of markers that you hit then gives you a place to go. But those markers could peter out, or they could get stronger, or they could get stronger and then peter out. Listen, a lot of the missing case stuff, a lot of the crimes that are solved, the identification of who you think you're looking for comes with it. We know that these people reported their family member missing. They're willing to give you their DNA, and through process of elimination of real DNA versus real DNA. But in this case, that's not what they did. They stuck an unknown, suppose this is what they should have done, but I doubt they did, an unknown sample into a system of millions and millions of potential people. And you're going to get thousands, if not hundreds, if not thousands of hits that come back with markers that match. Out of the 20 you're looking for, maybe it'll only be one marker. Okay? Maybe it's only one marker. So you can pretty much count that person out. Maybe it's 4 markers. Maybe it's 6. Maybe it's 8. Maybe if you saw someone with 8 and you followed it down that tree, you would have come up with a different solution than the one that had 7. That would send you down a different way. You understand? It's not that fucking easy, man. And it's a statistical analysis. Does this guy with the 7, am I sticking with this guy with the 7 over the 8 because the 7 kind of fits into the profile I'm looking for, which is Bryan Kohberger? Is that how they made their decision? How is it the other 3 samples that were given the same difference that Bryan Kohberger's were, and they were white male, or they were male DNA samples, not found in the system? Why weren't those samples sent through? I don't know how anybody could tell you he looks good. What do you think? That I don't really see. That's not part of the case, Mark. That's part of the YouTube case. That's part of these fucking. Hey there, Heather. She's another one. And there's a couple of girls she hangs out with, and they try to stick just to the facts, and they do a pretty good job about it. I forget the other ladies that I followed that are connected to you. There's 3 of them in that. I tried to stop and listen a little bit to Rory today, but I see that Tommy Jude on there, and I just assume fucking, I don't even know, eat my own shit than listen to anything that guy's got to say. Fucking scumbag. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any idea. It's insane, bro. It's just insane. Let's see. I'm going to play a couple seconds of this and see where he goes with it.
Realms of possibility. No, it's not. And I'll tell you why it's not. Because even the bare bones of Bryan Kohberger's case are flimsy, like a pair of pants blowing in the wind. That's what you get in a pair of pants blowing in the wind, pair of knickers blowing in the wind. That's Bryan Kohberger's flimsy ass case. Now, some people will lead you to believe that that's not the case, but yet they will fail to address that the FBI don't even place Bryan Kohberger at the property.
Ever since Kimora was a little girl, she had her sights set on the sky. And Spectrum Internet brought the sky to her
She should have him. Good little girl.
They don't have any solid evidence that places him at the crime scene. All they have is a knife sheath, like this golden goose knife sheath that apparently had his DNA on it. But even the fucking DNA around that is so convoluted that right at the very beginning, they tell us, ignore that, ignore it. We're not going to use it. We're not going to use that. We don't need to now because we've got a buccal swab. We'll just use that. So ignore all that shit because we've now got a buccal swab. We can just say, well, we took a swab of his cheek and that matches what was on at the crime scene. Well, ignore that. Ignore the stuff that makes no fucking sense whatsoever and was probably done illegally, and the FBI hadn't even concluded that it was absolutely Brian Goldberger there. Just all this building of a family tree and all it just so fucking odd, just so bizarre. Going from Moscow all the way to fucking Pennsylvania, routing through fucking bins and all of that shit. You know what I mean? Just don't make fucking sense. The car that was supposed to be a petri dish of evidence that turned into nothing whatsoever. Going into his home, seemingly nothing there as well. Supposed to have been fired, but he still had his keys to his fucking office. So I don't know what was going on there. But anyway, what I was talking about was I don't collaborate with any other channels because we've got.
Yeah, I don't either, technically. I really don't cooperate or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Collaborate with other channels. Clues sometimes. But there's really no collaboration there. Like, we'll be on each other's stream or not, There's no need for it. You see, I turned off Harsh, but somehow he's still. Oh, that's because I'm not live. I got rid of Harsh. Got rid of the Harsh. When you gotta add bro used a shower curtain to protect his car. Yeah, it's not even that they're a conspiracy theorist. I think the worst thing about it is that they're just not people that they're not willing to think. They think that they're absolutely right. And when you don't have facts to support that you're right, and facts that contradict what you're right no longer become relevant to you. That's the whole problem humanity suffers for. We believe in information. We were not supposed to eat from the tree of knowledge, folks, and this is the exact reason why. So that's a fucking problem, folks. He used the shower curtain as a Batman cape. Yeah, I don't, shower curtains. You can't even, the fucking things. Imagine trying to sit on a shower curtain and look at all of these guys' theories, all of these grub truck theorists, all these people like, people are watching this crime happen on their cell phone. Another story by Tommy Jude. What the fuck? You got no proof of that. You only got images of things that you're interpreting that way, and you're just a fucking brain dead, stupid fuck. And that's all you can do now is that shit. You interpret fucking videos. Images that are blurred, and images that are taken from a fucking angle, and none of that has anything to do with Brian Kohlberger's court case. Yeah, Daniel's got no capacity to think. And what little he had, he surrendered to the fucking mainstream media when they made fun of him when he was trying to point out discrepancies in the case the state had. Just so you know, that's exactly what happened to Daniel. Him and that other dude there, Fat Boy, were pointing out questions in the case as it was presented. And that's how the mainstream media eventually ran him over. And they ran him over. Pardon me. With the same bullshit arguments he's trying to run us over with. What up, Frankie? 31 days till spring training. That must be baseball. The man is talking about the meritocracy of baseball. And yeah, 31 days. Let me see here. What do we got? Yeah, so we got pretty good following over there on X. Between there and here. You guys can hit like, even if you don't like it. Fuck yourselves. Hit like, okay? And you know what? Don't hit like. As a matter of fact, don't hit the like, because it doesn't do any difference here anyway. I really don't care. Because again, like I'm not here looking for clicks or any of that. I appreciate those that are like dedicated users that come in and out. And let me see here. Doesn't what's his name there? There's a Mark and Betty. Don't you guys have a stream, Mark and Betty? I think, am I mistaken? But Mark and Betty, do you two have a stream? Heather, do you know if they have a stream? Maybe they're not in here anymore. I just posted over there in the tube of you. The YouTube. And you guys, I don't know what she's posting laughs. Okay, yeah, I'm probably better off viewing the chat through there, but the chat allows me to see chat from everywhere in StreamYard. I don't know if they're the two, the couple. They sit in chairs and present. Okay, that might be who I'm thinking. Okay. Yeah, there is a couple out there. Yeah, and it's a shame. Everything that Bryan Kohberger's defense does in preparation for trial, and no matter what they do, they twist it into something bad. There's a fingerprint expert. Daniel's going to run around, so is the media. They got Kohberger's fingerprints. Well, no, you don't know that to be true. Other than the fact that when they arrested him, they took his fingerprints, but were his fingerprints at the crime scene? I don't know. They ripped that thing down and buried it. So who the fuck knows? You know, maybe Bryan Kohberger, smart enough, left his finger in the door frame. You know, that's the other thing that's very disturbing here is how easily the internet and the media destroyed this guy's character. I mean, and that's one of the things too. There's a lot of people out there with the claiming that this, what a horrible person this guy Kohberger is, and funny enough that there's just no evidence to support that argument that he's a horrible criminal kind of person. There's zero. He had, we don't know to be true. We've heard from people that know him that he had a drug problem. But let me just say this. Let's accept that as fact, that he stole his sister's phone and sold it, right? Well, it was his father that had him arrested and charged. Okay? His father that did the right thing. How many parents would do that? I'm impressed that his father did that. And then he got a youthful offender. And that went away, right? Right? Then the kid straightened out. Who was he calling to come visit him? Who came out to visit Bryan Kohberger while he was in Washington? His father. Is at least 2 times, maybe as many as 3 times. Who did he take a small trip with once the semester closed before they went home for the holidays? His father. I mean, so it seems to me that this kid actually ended up with a relationship with his family, at least his dad, which a lot of us never get, right? And it came about through a very fucked up process of being stupid as a kid, doing the drugs, stealing the thing from your sister, but then your father got involved. And you're still involved with your father. I don't know how people don't see that in a light of that's awesome. That's motherfucking awesome. Right? You don't shield your kid from consequences to their acts for their own actions. And Bryan Kohberger's dad didn't do that. Not only that, okay, is that when your kids are doing the right thing and their actions are producing results that are beneficial to themselves, you participate in them equally. You don't just participate when your kid's life is on the wrong rails and then fucking ignore them. So, what I see there is a healthy relationship between Bryan Kohberger and his father. I see no disarray there. I see a continuity of parenting there that I wish I would have had. How many of us wish they would have had? Maybe a lot of you did have that. Maybe a lot of you avoided getting involved with drugs because you directly had that. And to see it put on display the way it is with Kohberger and then it be turned into some fucking awful, fucking filthy fucking thing, it's just mind-boggling to me. I mean, look at you guys coming here, and a lot of you respect me, and you've heard all, I've shared with you what kind of a down and out fucking scumbag I was. And you're forgiving of that. Why? Well, because you could see, you could witness, you can hear, you've got some understanding of what kind of a person I've become. I went from that to this. We in America seem to have no problem understanding and accepting that. But sometimes it's quite the opposite, where people want to take everything you've ever done in your life and say, see, and then the others. Then there's people that are like me, that were doing all of this dumb shit and causing all this fucking chaos, committing all these crimes and blaming your mom and dad. I did that too. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. I was in the street at 14. I was beat with brooms. I was fucking molested. I was this. I was that. It's not my fault. Yeah, it is, you stupid motherfucker. It is your fault. And that's what changed me, understanding that simple fucking concept. Your choices are your fault. You can't blame your choices on what your stepmother did to you when you were fucking 11, 12, 13 years old, 8 years old. No, you can't. Right? And you need that good slapping fucking hand to wake you up. It took me until I was 28 years old to wake up from that. So, it's just, so here's this kid, and I wish I had the support of a parent like him. But I didn't, and yet I still worked it out. Can you hold what I did in my past over my head and then label me a piece of shit? You certainly can. And I encourage you to do so. I mean, have at it. Take what I did when I was young and prove to the world that makes me a permanent piece of shit. And it's easier for people to do that in today's world because the whole thing, here's the catch-22. If anything from this stream means anything, it's this. Is you've all been trained to character assassinate, to satiate your own fucking belief you're better than others. You nasty cocksuckers. Okay? That's how it works. That's why the media is so successful. That's why when they impugn another fucking human being, you don't even have eyes to question whether they're being impugned fairly or not. But you want to be treated that way, right? How many of you wanted to be Brian Kohlberger? How many of you would accept cellular service fucking location data that's so inaccurate, right, that it can't put you at the crime scene? How would you feel if that was you or your kid? How would you feel if the FBI determined that car at the crime scene was what they said it was, and yet they arrested your fucking kid for the crime because Officer fucking Payne or fucking jerk off Maori or just some motherfucker decided the FBI agent must have made a mistake? And well, then he just included 11 to 16 on his own. Or the cop was cute. Listen, I can't even stress this enough. Imagine when the FBI got back in touch with the fucking Moscow Police Department. They said, we've reviewed that video. We've run that video of that vehicle through all of our software. And that video allows us to conclude that car is an 11 to 13. You don't think a cop wouldn't say, well, how do you know that? How'd you get to that? How do you know? This is something that none of you can, if you have common sense, you can't deny that this had to happen. Well, how could you be so sure? I mean, how do you know it's 11 to 13? And I promise you that the Federal Bureau of Investigation's agent said it's an 11 to 13 because of this. It might even have been 1 point. Okay? Because of this specifically. I was fortunate enough to be able to tell you that you're looking for an 11 to 13. I promise you that this conversation happened between the FBI and the fucking Moscow Police Department. Yet, once they got the tunnel vision, once they had inconclusive data of a location of a phone number that was in that area 12 times before the crime, and on the night of the crime was in a similar area to that crime, in other words, he was out and about just like he'd always been. Okay, and he drove a white Elantra, and it happened to be an 11 or 14 to 16. That got smudged because the other information in their possession convinced that fucking dim-witted motherfucker that Kohlberger had to be the criminal. Then the DNA confirmed his fucking supposition. And this is why a lot of people, this is why Ann keeps asking, when did you identify my client? Would have measured it and they would know for sure. Right. An 11 to 16 wouldn't even be a fair analysis. Just so that's why I got angry earlier. That body style remained consistent until 2019. So if it could be an 11 to 16, why isn't it 11 to 19? An 11 to 17, 11 to 18, 11 to, you see? This is why that statement, and this is why I honestly think Judge went along with what was in his courtroom, because Judge accepted that statement without any question. right? I suspect that that statement that we later determined it could also be an 11 to 16. Okay. All right, great. All right, cool. Right. And that cop could defend himself, say, well, that was what I believed it to be. Right. But you have no other way to track this vehicle. None. And the only definitive information that it was an 11 to 16 only appears in a different location at a different time on a different road. And if you were able to definitively identify a 14 to 16, then you have to ask yourself, why is it that that car didn't change from 14 to 16 completely? Because an 11 to 16 are different. An 11, 12, and 13, identical. 14, 15, 16, identical, but different from the 3 previous years. You see, it just, none of what they did makes sense. But none of what they did tells me they did not know. In other words, it wasn't just an honest mistake. Okay. Who's Triple J? JJJ couldn't wait to get away from this case. I don't know who Triple J is. Oh, Judge John Judge. I'm sorry. Well, you know, he said that. He made a few comments in that courtroom. If this gets to trial. And I think Judge John Judge was seeing things behind the scenes that are protected by a gag order that do put into question how you do genealogical work and how they come to their results. And I think that should be laid out. That should be laid out for the public so that we all learn something. That whole process of genealogy should not be hid from us. I want to know. I want to know where I'm wrong. I want to know where I'm right. I want to know what it all means. And at the very least, when you're putting a fellow citizen in prison or going to have him killed, that needs to be clear. I think the expert needs, I think so too. But I think at this point, based on what we've seen and the testimony of the witnesses and the documentation that we've been exposed to, Heather, do you conclude that the FBI identified the vehicle correctly, and that the FBI holds firm on that? Have you seen that be presented to us? If not directly from an FBI agent, but from the data that's been released and the testimony, do you come to the conclusion that the FBI was accurate in its first identification? Cy Ray is going to add to the confusion more so than I don't think Cy Ray is going to be able to give you his path. I don't think Cy Ray is going to give you an exact path. Be prepared for that, folks. Remember, you're talking about individual cell phone towers. It's 2 cars from 2 different locations. Correct. Queen Road. Okay, good. So I want, I'm glad someone said that. What did they say there? Cy Ray. Cy Ray is not going to be able to close the deal on this. Okay. But the discrepancies all benefit Kohberger. Right? The discrepancies all benefit Kohberger. And that should be the loudest thing that's paid attention to. And we should actually be patient, wait for more info to come out. Like I said, I can still see the guy as being guilty just as much as I can see this guy being innocent. I can't take a position one way or the other. Not because there's a gag order. Let me be clear. Based on what they've shown me, they haven't shown me his involvement at all. At all. Zero. They just haven't. They've contradicted everything they put in those warrants. Everything's been contradicted and or completely unverifiable. I think you're going to find the same issue with Cy Ray. I think Cy Ray is going to put him further south, like Twizzle was saying, further south towards Lewiston. I think Cy Ray may be able to clean that up a little bit, but be aware, folks, you can't triangulate the kid's movement off of one cell tower. And there's things that kind of can't be done, and there's let's say this. Let's say it takes 10 milliseconds from where I'm sitting to where the tower is that picks up my call, right? Is that 10 milliseconds consistent when I go in the basement? No. No, I have problems with reception in my basement. So does that mean I left my house? You could say that, right? But you can't say for certain I left my house. You can't say for certain I went in my basement. You could just say that the time between, in other words, I'm in the same location. And the same location, you can have two different fucking times between here and there because of other complications, right? I think Cy Ray is going to inject some confusion, and he's going to either have to be very clear, and trying to mitigate that confusion. But I think in the end, it is a complex issue, and I think the same thing with the DNA. It's a complex issue, but I think what they need to do is, if they can't get it squashed, is they need to really show that everything that they presented to you places Bryan Kohberger in their own work, not Cy Ray's, not me and Taylor. The work submitted by the police department and the issuance of all of their warrants and their collection of data all places Bryan Kohberger everywhere but that crime scene. And somewhere, somehow, out of the blue, a knife sheath, okay, designed for a knife to be attached to the human body through a belt loop. Somehow that got left behind, and the miracle of all miracles, there was a bit of DNA, skin cell DNA on the buckle that survived whatever happened in that house, and whatever transportation it took, whatever bag that it was put in, right, and removed from, and it stayed there all of that time. We're talking 40, 50, whatever hours. And then was sampled out and then amplified, sent to a lab that then amplified. So let's be clear. They took the sample days after they had picked up the knife sheath and tested it. And they got no hits, and they got nothing from Codis other than it was a dude. And then that knife sheath starts a party travel somewhere. So that in and of itself cannot show us that Bryan was there the night of the crime. What can we show for sure that shows us it was the night of the crime? The night of the crime, we can completely agree with the prosecution that the vehicle that you saw on that video was an 11 to 13 Honda Elantra. We completely 100% agree with that. And again, I think that's also kind of like a fucking red herring, because nothing connects the car to the crime scene. The only thing that connects the car to the crime scene is Dylan, through her indirect testimony at the times of the night, okay? Things that she heard and her things that she did. Yeah, poor Grant, he doesn't want to talk about knife sheaths. Remember what Brian King said. Did Bryan Kohberger assume that law enforcement had his phone data? Is that what you're saying? I don't know that Bryan Kohberger ever said that. Hey, there's someone in here. Pocket. Maybe he rented the car. The problem with that, Don, is that is a possibility. How did he get in the 11 to 13? I've said that for months now. Okay. So Pam Bar Alert quoted him that Kohberger wanted to be exonerated because the phone data, the law enforcement had his phone data, right? Yeah, if you can get a link to that, that'd be all right. If you can't, you can't. But Don, like I had said, when the car stopped reporting to the network, is there anything of any cameras leading up to that point in time? Is there anything in that area? Were there any other phone pings that would coincide with the general location of where Bryan Kohberger's phone stopped reporting? Is there any other evidence that a 2011 to 2013 car came by and picked him up? Right? Did Bryan get out of his car and jog somewhere and get an 11 to 13? Because in all fairness, this would be the punch in the face of all punches in the face. This would make Mike Tyson look like a little tiny girl when he punches somebody. But if you all want to hang your hat on just how fucking smart Bryan Kohberger is, then the fact that he used an identical vehicle from a different model year to go commit this crime would be genius beyond genius, because he places himself out and about. He's placed himself in that area 12 other times. He places himself inside of that Elantra during police stops and ticketing, during travels to the market. He unequivocally shows the world that he's driving a 14 to 16 Elantra. There's no ambiguity in that. But then on the night of the crime, he switches to an 11 to 13. If anybody can make that connection, then you've just established how the crime was committed by Bryan Kohberger. And I'm completely, like I said, I don't like theorizing. But if any of these people that are guilters out there really had it in them to try to understand how two different cars are connected to this identification of a car, how that could have all come together, that would be fucking brilliant. That would be brilliant. Is to jump in a 13 or an 11 or a 12 and drive that to the crime and commit this crime. Drive it around the house so everybody sees it. I don't know what anybody, that would make a hell of a fucking crime thriller. Think it through. You want to say Bryan Kohberger is smart. To me, that would be the most genius thing. He's fully aware. All right, so I'll put this up and we'll go through it right now. Right? Can anybody disagree with that? If you think Mr. Kohberger is the doer, then accept that the car was the 11 to 13 and show us where he transferred from his 14 to 6 from his 15 into the other one. We'll use 12. It's just easier. It'd be a genius play. That would be just, oh my God, would that be mind-boggling? And then this guy in the end wins his case, right? He's found not guilty. He sits in jail for this period of time. And to me, that's better for him, better for his family. And he plays the fucking game as the game is to be played. And in the end, he comes out a winner. And there's nothing I've seen Ann do that indicates to me that she isn't going to win in front of a jury. Uh-oh. We got Twizzle hanging out with another woman behind Heather's back. Oh, boy. How would it ping near Blaine at 4:43 if he left at that? I didn't see what she said. Let me see here. Those phone pings are the most inaccurate thing of all. I wouldn't even pay any attention to them. Yeah, so that's Grant. What did they say? That's Heather. Anyway, I'm going to go over what Heather just put out here. Let's see. I got to present. Let me move this kid down. Okay. And I will present. And we'll read through this. Bryan Kohberger initially agreed to speak to Postman, then invoked his right to counsel. This is coming from his lawyer. Bryan Kohberger, the man charged with murdering 4 students, initially waived his right to counsel and agreed to speak with law enforcement following his arrest. But then he requested an attorney, according to the public defender representing him in Pennsylvania. Kohberger was taken into custody just before 2 a.m. last Friday, and he, for the crime there. Let's skip that paragraph. He's calm. He's fully aware. It's obvious he's very intelligent. He already has a master's. Shouldn't shock anyone that he's intelligent. Chief Public Defender of Monroe County, who will represent Kohberger in the crimes of the first semester. Okay. Expect a brief extradition hearing. Labar told a crime that Kohberger spoke with law enforcement for 5 to 15 minutes. The Pennsylvania State Police Barracks following his arrest early last Friday. Kohberger waived his Miranda rights, but then requested an attorney. Labar said Kohberger told him that police asked the client if he understood what was going on, and he responded by saying something to the effect of, yes, certainly, I'm aware of what's going on. I'm 10 miles away from this. Then Labar said Kohberger invoked his right to counsel and asked for an attorney. Moscow police said they seized the 15 Elantra. Labar confirmed Kohberger drove the vehicle. Police initially asked last month for any information 11 to 13, where they had registrations for 22,000 vehicles that matched that description. Police executed search warrants. I'm skimming through this kind of, folks. Koberger arrived in Pennsylvania mid-December. LaBar said his father flew to Washington to make the drive back with his son, and what LaBar said was a trip planned before the start of the school year. They left Pullman between December 13th and December 16th in an effort to beat the incoming snowstorm. Brian isn't denying he was in Pullman through mid-December, LaBar said. He also said he assumes law enforcement has his GPA data available through his mobile phone. Damn, that's first I heard that. That's awesome. Koberger's family released. Okay. They can't afford a lawyer for him, so you have to have a public defender. Well, he's 28 years old, so parents shouldn't have any concerns with paying for anything. So that is key. That Koberger LaBar said he also said he assumes law enforcement has his GPA data available through his mobile phone. You know, I'm just telling you, that's a pretty fucking blatant fucking statement. That's the first time I've seen that or read that. I have never seen that or read that. And let me see, is that in quotations? Let me just look. Bryant isn't denying he was in Pullman through mid-December. He also said he assumes law enforcement has his GPS data available through his mobile phone. Yeah, damn. This is why Ann keeps saying that she knows there's exculpatory stuff. I'm sure that they could obtain that information from the cell phone provider, right? I mean, you got a browsing history for that anyway. So that kind of discovery, and his locations through that GPS shouldn't be that hard to find. Papa Rogers was clued up. I don't even know about Papa Rogers. And this is why she says the Brady violation is related to the phone data. GPS don't lie, though. Well, I don't know if it lies, but it can be inaccurate within, hundreds of feet. However, we're not talking about being on the same cell phone tower at the opposite end of the ranges, which could be as many as 20 miles, right? Yeah, but even if his device's download failed, that data is stored on your, generally it's connected to a web browser, right? It is on my phone. I mean, so your location is stored off of your phone. So as far as I know, that would make sense to me because then it would be in the cloud, right? Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. That's another piece of information that nobody's ever really pointed out. I'm glad, Heather, you and those girls, you guys do some digging and you come up with some pretty good shit. I don't know what fog data is. You got to define fog. I mean, when you tell me about fog, I look out my window to see if there's fog out there. Abadobanoba. What the hell you're talking about? What is fog? Found on Google? I don't know. And then it takes 10 minutes for someone to reply to that. Their own statement. I'll kill you. I will kill you. Remember that with that fucking puppet? I'd kill you. What the hell is fog? God damn it. It's the information in the operating system and apps on your cell. Well, thank you for the education. Because I love to learn. I love being wrong. I'm going to unpresent this. Get rid of it. Stop sharing it. Get rid of it. Get out. It's out. It's gone. It's history. Yes, ma'am. It's a never to be seen again. Yeah. And that little guy, Lucky, that guy to the point, I think Lana is very smart, but I think Lana does to herself what I'll often do to myself, and that's confuse myself, right? Because you're rumbling around with so much data in your head and your wires get crossed. And, I don't even know. Yeah, and she should have some other way to she should have a pointer or something else, man. I'm not going to get into that anyway. Law enforcement with a grudge against the church. I don't know. Papa Rogers could be someone connected to that, and we don't know. That's the catch-22. We don't know, but we can say with more certainty than not, right? We can say with more certainty than not, what happened here? Oh, there it is. That the car around the house was not the car that Brian Koberger was arrested with. I, to the point, and Unfiltered Lucky eats that I wish they could have organized my thoughts that clearly. Yeah, I like To the Point. I like Unfiltered Lucky. I don't like Unfiltered Lucky's. There's just something about the guy. He's just, he looks up in the air. He looks up inside of his head, and he's got some weird mannerisms. But he seems to have gone. And I don't think those two guys are trying to solve the case or come up with who done it. And I think that all of us did that to some extent earlier on. But then enough of us cleared our head enough to say, what really matters here are the verifiable pieces of information. You can argue, well, the Banfield's verified. Well, the Banfield isn't part of this fucking charges. It's nowhere inside of this court case as of now, right? So what the fuck? It's useless, man. Yeah. It's wearing the yellow hammer sickle on every red star, nearly identical to the sticker gate Soviet Moscow stickers. Yeah. Yeah, I could see them coming out with something like that, someone from that church. And I'm sure there's people on the police force that are from that church. People in government. There's got to be. This WSMC K-Bar was trademarked in November 1942. And now let me, I'm going to just do a little summary here and get out of here in a minute or two. The fact of the matter is, there was and there's been numerous agencies that have all indicated there was no forced entry. There's nothing in any reports that indicates any forced entry into any of the rooms to where any of the occupants that became deceased were that night. That to me is disturbing. Okay. Fog is like visual snow. Can you remember that one? Well, sure. And I hope you're not offended because you suffer from fog, but it is what it is. If you do, you do. Nothing to be ashamed of, Fog Boy. So you have a completely clear crime scene. And in and out, and it alerts nobody, including the occupants, especially the occupant that was between everything. She both slept in a room directly below the murders on the third floor. There's no question to that. None. She lived below that room. And she lived down the hall and opposite corners of the second floor to the second group of murders. So the idea that you could clear that person, and I think, in fact, that's what the Goncalves or Gonzalez, or whatever the hell their fucking name is, I think that's some of the people that they're concerned with that were cleared. Huh. That's crazy you talk to that guy. And I think that we never really got a fair investigation into that crime. There wasn't the professionalism that you would have expected. There wasn't the observational professionalism that you would have hoped to find there. Right? These weren't suspicious deaths by poisoning or asphyxiation. These were violent attack to which at least two, if not more, of the victims fought for their lives. And that struggle itself would make noise. Don't worry, Grant. I'm going to the dentist tomorrow to see how many teeth they're going to pull to replace. I'm thinking at least 4. Outside, maybe 6. But, I got to do this. And I got to do it during the off season here in the winter. So if they're not prepared to get busy and they want to delay me to April or May, then they're going to have to delay me till next November. And it will behooving upon this particular said dentist to make sure that the teeth that are going to be fixed or changed are nursed all the way through these next several months, 8 months, whatever it is, until I can get in there and have them pulled. So don't worry, I am going to get teeth pulled. Don't you worry, old you folks want me to experience pain. Don't worry, it's a coming. Old Sarge has got a fucking appointment with pain. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That guy's my favorite person in all of Moscow. Okay, and back on the politics before I close out. Our country is coming in second to China and all of its innovations and all the things that they're doing over there should be getting done here, right? And every seaway that because we do have the world's largest navy, the days of us protecting the globe need to stop, and everybody needs to start paying us for our services, or they need to pay a toll through the fucking waterways that we protect if they don't want to pay directly to our services, right? And I think the Gulf of Mexico should be called the Gulf of America. And I think the Panama Canal, control of the canal should be returned back to the American government. However, I think it wouldn't be objectionable for the revenues to be shared and the propensity of the revenues to be given to the government of Panama. But the protection of that port and the management of that port needs to be secured by the United States, because that's our only connection between those two oceans. And China's already got their fucking fingers in there. China's already, and Russia have already got their fingers in the fucking Greenland and in Canada. Just be aware that all of these places are threatened, that would put us at a huge disadvantage if access to those locations were denied us. Okay? Just be aware of that, folks. And so on politics, that's obviously something that this nation needs to stand for. I think Trump, people need to remind him about the war on drugs. Okay? You need to take airplanes that drop fucking water and fill them motherfuckers up with Roundup and go hit them fucking cocaine fields. Okay? Go hit them poppy fields. Fuck that bullshit. Okay? That's what that should be our war on drugs. You need to drop in fucking SEAL teams and whatever the fuck else you got into the residencies or into the camps of these drug cartels. And you need to treat this like a real war. You need to execute it with the power and the fucking smarts and intelligence of the United States military. And you need to execute it to a conclusion. Okay? Of course, you need to seal our borders. But all of that stuff, as president, that's what we need to stay on him to make sure he does. It's what they said they were going to do. And we the people need to stay on top of this. And we need to, especially with all these people that are YouTubers and like the Joe Rogans and all these people at Tucker's to get access to them. Right? It's crazy. How many bottom teeth implants do you have, Steve? And you must have got them a long time ago from to be that expensive. I don't think teeth are that expensive anymore. So how many teeth do you have and how long ago did you put them in? Well, how many teeth was that? 13 teeth? So that if that's 13 teeth, that's like fucking $4,000 a tooth. Do you think he should annex Canada and buy Greenland? No, I think buying Greenland fine. But I think Canada, I don't know how to sort that out. The Canadian people need to sort out what they want to do. I mean, that's the Panama Canal should be done if need be by force. The economic impact of losing control of that canal is beyond your comprehension. And our military, our naval ability to guard the United States is completely squashed if we lost control of the Panama Canal. Okay, just be aware. The Japanese, during World War II, created submarines that could launch airplanes, bi-winged airplanes, for the purpose of getting the planes close enough to the Panama Canal to surface the submarine and launch these airplanes that would drop bombs on key pieces of the fucking dams, or not the dam, the canal. That is an extremely important fucking part of how the United States can prosecute and protect itself. We're being nice and sending support in the wildfire situation. Even had our own planes hit by it. Yeah, I think Canada's fine the way it is, but if they wanted to have a closer relationship, but I also think that the fact that Canada, you guys charge us massive tariffs on our dairy and other things. You really slam us with tariffs. That was what that last deal Trump made with you guys. I don't know if you guys have been adhering to it. I don't think Mexico's been adhering to it. I don't think any of the signatories to the free trade, the trade agreement between us and Mexico and Canada. I think you guys have been violating that since Biden's been in office, and Biden hasn't done anything about it. I mean, for quite a long time, Grant, in all fairness, you guys were having alternators, as an example, completely manufactured in China, and they would come to fucking Canada, and you guys would put a pulley on it. You'd add one simple fucking part to it, and then you'd slap it in a box made in fucking Canada, ship it over our border as a Canadian product. And it wasn't. It was a Chinese product. That's what Trump went after the first time. And I don't think you guys ever stopped doing that once Trump lost his position in office. That's probably why he's coming so hard for you. It's not your fault, Grant. It's not the citizens' fault. But it is the fault of those leaders that were in charge there. And America's leaders. Biden shouldn't have allowed that. Now, I think the agreement allots that 75% of that product that you put your sticker on has to be made in Canada to be considered Canadian. Same thing with Mexico. 75% of the product minimum. And it varies depending on what product it might be. So I think that's probably one of the higher ratios. But that was all laid out in that trade agreement that Trump passed, that you guys signed and we signed, and Mexico signed. And I think the reason Trump is mad at you guys is not you, the people, because you're getting fucked harder than we're getting fucked. And I don't think any of you like being fucked that way. So, you know, he's going to rain on your parade a little bit, but you can blame Justin Trudeau and the government that's been in power there for all that time. Yeah. Yeah, which is, it's a shame your citizens don't know more. You know? A lot of American citizens don't know. What I just shared with you, most Americans and most of the people in this fucking chat room wouldn't have known. It is what it is, man. Can't know everything. There's only one person that I know comes close. I can't mention his name because, you know, humility is supposed to be an important fucking thing. Is Trump a Zionist? I don't even know what the word Zionist means, to be honest with you. What is a Zionist? I could look it up. Labels and titles like that, I don't really pay much attention to. I mean, to me, like the word racist is an action. Not liking somebody because of their skin color is not racist. Right? And a lot of Americans are just too stupid to understand that, or they've been conditioned to think something other than the truth. A racist has nothing to do with your ability to like or dislike somebody based on appearance, whether it be color or any other reason. You have every right to do that. But no, you should do nothing to interfere in that person's fucking life, liberty, and happiness. Right? You can hate black people to your heart's content. You fucking hate, you can have your whole house wallpapered in the hate of blacks. That is not racist. Racism is an action into which you then prevent a black person from intermingling within the same society that you are. You're superior to them, therefore they're not allowed in your store. You know, you physically have to do something. Think about what racism really is. Not liking somebody because of their color just doesn't cut it. They want you to believe it's as simple as that, but that isn't the truth. And that's just not the truth. When we own black people as slaves, that is racism. That's racist. That's superiority at its finest. But some idiot that sits in his house with these, even religions, that hate blacks, whatever. But you don't see any of them running out in the street and taking blacks out of schools or doing, right? All that ended, didn't it? They used to do that. I'll give you that. But that ship has sailed. We don't tolerate that. So I have a hard time calling anyone racist. You can hate white people for all the tragedy you see that is taking place between the two colors. You can hate me all you want. But you in no way, shape, or form can interfere with my life. Which is what a racist is. That's the whole point, the basis of that word. So, you know, like what's his name out here? The gun, J.B. Gunner. He says, I'm racist. I hate blacks. Well, he's never done anything to prevent a black. He stands in line with blacks when he goes into Disney World. He shops at the same stores they shop at, gets his car fixed if he has a car, uses the same electrical lines that the black people down the street use, drives on the same roads, walks on the same sidewalks, shits in the same fucking public places. So, yeah, he's racist in his own head. He's racist. He's not doing anything racist. Hating people, that's your prerogative, man. It's fucking ridiculous. If that's the way you want to live, you go ahead and hate them. You know, like you're a homophobe. I hate gays. You can hate gays all you want. There's nothing wrong with it. But don't prevent the gay person from getting lunch, dinner, breakfast, a job, traveling down your roads. Get involved with stopping that person from living, and that's racist. You see? You're going to have nightmares when they get knocked out. So I don't think you ever answered the question there, Steve. Oh, you had all teeth, but how long ago did you have that done? I mean, I'm glad there's someone in here that had tooth replacement. So I got a few questions, and I'm going to close the stream. Are you still in here, Steve? Hello, Steve. Come in, Steve. Hello? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Steve? Hello? Steve? Yikes. Somebody nudge Steve a little bit. Don't let Steve, I don't even know. Don't let him get any toothpaste. See what happens then. That'd be racist against his teeth. Steve, are you there? Steve? Steven? Stefan? Around $3,000 a tooth. I don't like my country anymore. So throw me in jail. We don't like you enough to jail you. So now what? Fuck, did this guy Steve leave? Because if you answer now, I will haunt you. And then I might hunt you. And then it's going to get ugly. Boy. Where the hell are you, Steve? Didn't say goodbye. Didn't say shit. Oh my God. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. They're about $2,000 to $3,000 a tooth. And yeah, I mean, have you ever had one done, Heidi? Have you had implant? Who's had implants put in? Anybody? Wow, it's like pulling fucking teeth, for God's sakes. Fucking Steve. Unbelievable. Yeah, I can't get an answer out of any of these. Are you all that fucked up? Man, you know how much a teeth cost, but have you had, Steve, I don't really need to know. No, I haven't. My tooth was way in the back, so it didn't matter. As much meat as you eat, you need lots of teeth. Yikes. All right, well, Steve screwed me. Yeah, I got screwed by a guy that lost all of his bottom teeth. I'm nowhere near to that fucking point. However, yeah, with fucking audiences like Steve, who would have facts that might help me understand what I'm walking into, they just fucking up and abandon the fucking stream. They don't even say goodbye. They engage you in the chat, but then they don't say goodbye. I don't get it. Even fucked up me says goodbye. Well, they're not really going to do anything tomorrow, but like, I got that appointment. If I don't like what I hear from this dentist, there's a few more dentists I got numbers to, and I'll call them. You know, it's just crazy, man. All right. Well, this was fun. Steve is on a fairyland adventure. He's hanging out with Michael Jackson. Is Steve actually a ghost? Pardon me. Not at all. I admire your input, Sarge, if that means anything. I appreciate that. Hummingbird. No. He's with the Tooth Fairy. I didn't know the Tooth Fairy would hang out with you. Well, I thought we were onto something, but apparently not. Anyway, I think Lana's still got a stream going. If you guys got the urge to continue listening to a stream, there's other ones out there. I wish you all the luck in the world. Van Savant is there. Van, have you ever had any tooth replacement, Van? Van the cook? Okay, all right. How many teeth did you have replaced? How much per tooth? And how long did the process take? When I was 14. All right, folks, enough of this fucking crap. I'm fucking out of here. I don't want any of you around when I'm drowning, because I could just start seeing you throwing fucking lead at me and bricks and fucking car rims. You'd throw everything at me that didn't fucking float, wouldn't all you? I could see it right now. Meaning, what the fuck is going on with you people? You all got blue wrenches. You're all useless. For fuck's sakes. When I was 14. When Van Savant was 14, right? We hadn't even discovered fire. Oh my God. We hadn't even discovered fire when that fucking dude was 14. Unbelievable. $500 one day. Quit whining, Sarge. Fuck. Yeah, I don't think tooth replacement. Yeah, in 1976, when they were still putting wood teeth in like they did for George Washington. What the fuck kind of noise is that? 50 fucking years ago. It's well, you did answer my question. Have you ever had any teeth replaced? Yeah, 50 fucking years ago when they were still using fucking plastic, okay? They were using plasticized wood, okay? And then they were using that shit there, that shit that they use on the paper there to block something out, that whiteout. Plasticized wood covered in whiteout, so it all looked white. Because you don't want anything but white teeth, you racist. Unbelievable. Just quit lying. They fucking, what did they put, a cap on your tooth? They couldn't have put a complete tooth in your fucking mouth all the way down to the jaw with a metal stud. Did they do that, Van? Because you're smart enough to know that what they did 50 years ago ain't nothing like what they're doing today. And so you could have just basically not have said a fucking thing and said, nah. But no. You're another one standing on the fucking shore with fucking cement blocks waiting for me to have trouble when I'm swimming. Because you're ready to help. A cap. See? How did I call it? Man, that's, oh my God. That's just some crazy shit, Van. Holy fuck. That ain't even close to a tooth replacement. It's a fucking cap. From 50. I swear to God, I'm going to fucking park my car in the garage and start that motherfucker up. Unfucking believable. Like having tits on a fucking bull. It's incredible. All right, everyone. I should have never brought up the ribs and the dentist. Well, no, that's fine. You couldn't predict just what kind of fucking bunch of lowlives we have in here. Yeah, I don't even know how you could bring that into the conversation. No one over here said nothing about having any pain. No one ever here, not me. I'm asking specific questions about the process, what to expect in cost, because I'm paying for it out of pocket. How long did the process take? I don't know how that's whining. Come on now. The only one really whining is you, because you actually interjected information into a very, very clear-cut fucking conversation that had no place. Fucking savant. Jesus Christ. All right, well, yeah, I have to say good night, everyone. I'm gonna go train my Alexis to talk shit about Van. I'm gonna have Alexa start talking nasty shit about Van. I know I'm gonna have pain. They're pulling teeth, for God's sakes. Of course it's gonna hurt. But that's not a big deal. It only lasts for a few days. It's not like the end of the world. I don't mind that. Holy shit. Oh my God. Well, it's been real.